$100,000, $300,000 for a van build. That's what people these days are spending, and I'm here to tell you, you do not have to spend that much money. I spent $1,000 on this van build, and it has been perfect for us for the last 5 years. So I'm gonna share with you all the nitty-gritty of how much it costs to build this van. When I was 19 years old, I bought this van right here behind me, and I wanted to make it my home. Now, I didn't have a lot of money, and I was working a pretty low income job, hustling on the side on my side hustles in order to bring in more money to be able to build the van. I literally scrubbed toilets and made beds for a living in order to build the van, and I knew I was not gonna have one of those fancy vans like you see on Instagram. And that's okay. If you have one of those, that is awesome. But for me at the time, it was just not a possibility, and I was willing to do whatever it took in order to live in a van on the road. So I'm gonna break down for you the costs for each category, and keep in mind, every single one of these dollar signs is in Canadian dollars. I'll do a US dollar breakdown at the end of the video. So, first up, the foundation, the van itself. I bought this van at auction. It used to be a provincial vehicle, so it was a police vehicle. It's actually pretty funny. There used to be a jail inside of it, like actual jail cells inside this van, and it cost me $5,361, which at the time was a really good price because it's a 2006 Dodge Sprinter, which is made by Mercedes and lasts a super long time. And it's held up this long. I've barely put any money into the van itself. Next up is maintenance. I had to spend some money on the van to make it roadworthy and just safer so that when I'm far away and I don't know a mechanic near me, I feel secure. So I invested $3,680 in safety. That included getting a whole new muffler system and just some other upgrades that weren't necessary, but I choose to pay for ahead of time. Next up is bodywork. I don't know if you've ever seen a Sprinter on the road, but typically they are these big white vans that are super rusty. Sprinters are known for just having rust and paint problems due to the thin layer of paint that they are given at factory. And that was definitely the case for Frankie. That's what I call my van. Her name is Frankie. And she was super rusty when I got her, and I knew that I needed to put some money to make it last longer. So I spent $2,897 to get the whole van professionally painted, and I searched high and low for someone who would paint it for me at that price, and I ended up finding this old retired guy who did it for me in his spare time, and it was like the perfect exchange. I was super happy with it, and I ended up choosing a unique color to me. Electrical. I spent $2,214 on electrical. And in hindsight, I could have spent more. I ended up getting AGM batteries, which are known for not lasting the longest. And 5 years into van life, I now have different batteries, but it worked perfectly for me at the time. They lasted about 2 years from the day that I bought them. That includes solar panels, inverters, all the wiring, everything cost me $2,214 for electrical. Insulation. I live in Canada, it gets really cold here in the winter, and I knew that I wanted to live in the van during the winter time, so I had to put some money into insulation. My dad knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy who was able to insulate the inside of my van for $1,106. He spray foamed it, and it's been great. I know there are other alternatives for insulation, but that had the highest R value I could get for living in a van with pretty thin walls in order to maximize space. Now, I want to hear in the comments below, what did you spend on your van build? I know people spend anywhere from $100 to $100,000, and that's the beauty of the van life community, but it's interesting to hear what you spent and what was a priority in your build. Comment below. Appliances. I spent $630 on my S-bar heater, my fridge, and my exhaust fan at the top of the van. I got most of that stuff secondhand, and it came out to a pretty cheap price. Plumbing was $553. That includes the tank, plumbing tubes, and all that stuff. I was able to reuse a lot of stuff from my dad's shop, and I also found stuff secondhand for plumbing. Next up is a category that most people don't think about, and that is mattress and safety stuff. So smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors, that kind of thing. And my total for my mattress was $1,544. that was a piece that I was hemming and hawing over spending money on, but ultimately I sleep so well in the van and was able to get a high quality mattress for that price. And then I spent $201 on just sensors to make sure that I would never have a fire and that I would always feel safe in my van. The last category is my toilet setup with all the final touches in the van. That includes the curtains that I made, unique drawer pulls that I bought, drawer sliders, everything you think you don't need until suddenly it adds up to a bigger total than you thought. And our toilet is a separate toilet, which is essentially just a DIY compost toilet. So that was $500 all in for that section of stuff. Now comes the total cost of my van build. Taking into account these totals are in Canadian dollars, and I was lucky enough to have found a lot of stuff secondhand at the thrift stores, at the dump, honestly, from family and friends who had stuff laying around and wanted to give it to me. I was lucky enough to be resourceful in that way to make this cost less. It was $20,298.32. I tracked all of my build prices to a T when I was building out so I could have a comprehensive total at the end. And that $20,000 translates to 15,000 US dollars. Now I know there are vans that are much more expensive and there are vans that are much cheaper, but I was able to do all that without going into debt, working a pretty minimum wage job. It was just like $1 higher than minimum wage, and just saving up as much as I can. So I moved into the van debt-free, and I'm still debt-free because of that. And it's been an awesome journey of just saving as much money as I can along the way, while also being able to spend it on things that are important to me now. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to see a truly luxury and super expensive $500,000 rig, make sure to check out our tour of the Earth Roamer, which is just next level as compared to my $20,000 van build. Whether you're planning your own van build or are simply curious, I hope that my breakdown of the cost helped you out a little bit and gave you the inspiration that you need to go after it without saving up a ton of money to make it happen. And just, you don't need all the fancy stuff that is constantly sold to you. You are capable of building stuff on your own. I went into this van build with no building experience except for having used a drill before, and I was able to leave it with my own home on wheels that has been my home for the past 5+ years. It's almost 6 years now. So I hope that this helped you. I hope that you're able to take this information and bring it into your own build. And until next time, safe travels.